Prompts in AI Hub just keep getting better. There's a new preview feature that allows us to generate documents with ease. Hi, I'm Bruno, and welcome to the Power Minutes. Today we are looking at a new AI feature that is in preview, meaning that not only it's not fully ready just yet, it might even be unavailable on your usual environments. If you want to test it out, maybe you want to first create an environment in the United States region to have access to this feature. For today's example, we'll be revisiting the invoice processor app, since we already got most of the structure out of the way. If you've never been to one of our sessions or you need a refresher, this application basically contains three tables. One where we store the invoice, where we have our customer information and the invoice information with the products, the taxes and the costs associated, as well as the invoice and the due date. Of course, some other information available on our customer table, and of course, our products stored on another table. So, what we want to do is bring this information that is in Dataverse into a document so we can send it to our customer. All right. One limitation we know that we have to tackle over is that currently this only works with Word documents. Hopefully, by the time of release, we have more documents being supported. But let's get started with our template, shall we? We need to figure out how to use it, and I already prepared an example here today. Here's our invoice, and you can see that we have some double curly braces fields, and these are the identifiers that will be used to show the process on our prompt where we want a given input. Then the system will take care of it and basically replace any of these fields with the associated content. And if you want to add a table, you want to define an array basically. In this case, we have our product table, and for each column, we put a dot and then name of the column. So we have our products with an item, a description, an amount, a rate, and a subtotal. All right, everything seems to be ready and pretty straightforward. Now let's see how we can do the setup in our AI Hub. So let me open the prompt tab and let's get to business. So in our invoice generation prompt, we want to first take care of our input since it's already in order to be uploaded. So make sure that your output is set as to document, which is in preview, and then head over to document settings. Select the template that you want, press open, and if everything goes as intended, you'll see that it should generate a list of fields that it wants to essentially convert. And our products is here even designed as a table. Great, everything seems to be in order. Now we need to ensure that our inputs are also correct. Let's move to the input, shall we? It's important that we highlight and define every single field. So essentially, we know that the invoice number is going to be here somewhere. I have it here, as you can see. And how did I fetch the invoice number? Well, I used a content Dataverse, and then I search for my invoice. So we have here our invoice customer, which is the table we created custom, and then we can search for the invoice, and so on. We already got these fields over here, and you can see that we need to do something more. So for example, let's go to the address, which is part of our customers table. You'll see that's already filtering on invoice customer, but we need to filter it further and basically pass on a value to make sure that we don't pass more customers than we want or invoices than we want. So for that, we filtered this based on an input, which we called customer ID. You can add it by pressing add content and then pressing an input to be text. So you can see how we're headed. We got ourselves a customer ID, an invoice ID, and a product. But this product looks different. This is raw data. Why are we doing this? Well, there's currently another limitation in prompts is that we cannot make any of these filters based on lookups. So our products has a lookup to the invoice, and unfortunately we cannot use it to get the right information right here. So the alternative would be to pass on a table already, meaning that we have to collect our products elsewhere. But that's not too big of a challenge if you're used to Power Automate and some other features. As always, press test before you commit to it. Let's see what it generates. And if you're curious, yes, now we can even put some values here predefined so we can generate data. This is extra helpful because while our model is being tested within the prompt interface, you do not consume credits. You got only an estimate of credits that consumed, but if you call it on a flow, it will technically run and consume credits. So it seems that it captured data, including our products, in a structure. And we even have a document to download. Let's see how that looks like. And it's loading. And I'm pretty optimistic. Everything here looks like it's in order. We got our invoice number, our order number, our issue dates and due dates. Everything does seem to be in order. All right. Okay, I see that our total is not completely correct. Our text rate is just a fat text, but we can disregard that for now and just acknowledge that for the sake of the demo, we had it right. So our information is mostly correct. So we're confident in moving on to the next technical step. We want to eventually just call a process to do it. And what else is better than a good old Power Automate flow? So what did we do on our Power Automate flow? Well, for the trigger, we decided to look into our invoice table, and basically we created a Boolean field which will turn to true. This will later on be toggled by a PowerFX low-code command button. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to know how that is implemented. So essentially, when we are in a form, we can click on that button and it will trigger this flow and not elsewhere. So we will essentially grab that record once it's ready to be picked up. We will collect a list of records by filtering it based on the invoice. This is what we would expect to do on the prompt. We're currently not able to, but that's all right. And then, of course, we are converting this to an HTML table to ensure that the structure is already nice and cozy for the prompt. Then next, it's very easy. You just invoke your prompt called over here, your invoice generation, and you can see that for every input, we basically put our fields over here. Very straightforward. Our invoice ID, we're getting the invoice ID, the customer as well, we're getting the ID from the trigger. So it's a relational data, so we can push it directly. And for products, we will get the HTML value. Of course, to end our demo, we'll basically be sending, in this case, send back to myself, the record with the content bytes that were generated from the prompt. All right, we're nearly there. All we need to do is test it out. So let's go back to our app. And as you can see, I'm just going to pick the second one. And there is the generate invoice button. Again, let me know if you want to know how I pulled this off. If you're curious, it's low code, it's not JavaScript. So once we press that button, you can see that it blinked, so it triggered. And let's see how, if our flow already was called. No, let's give it just a little while longer. And let's refresh it once more. Maybe now it's run, and it has ran. All right. It just took a little bit to refresh. Let's see how it ran. And we got, of course, our trigger over here, our list rows to get some records. Let's get the table. Let's see if we get something useful out of this table. And we see that I might have made a small mistake over here in my haste. If you see on the outputs, the entire table came through. Let's see how the machine took care of it. The prompt did eat up everything through. So small highlight, guys, maybe refresh and make sure that you confirm that your HTML table only have the right fields. But I'm confident that the prompt will know what we look for. So let's go to my email. We see that we have one new invoice, the invoice 12345, our creative Bruno, and let's see it. Moment of truth. Okay, we got our invoice over here, and let me just zoom in for you guys so you can see. Okay, we could have corrected over here to remove the hours, but that's, refinement. You never get it the first time around. And yeah, that's the entirety of it. If you look, we got basic logo, small database migration, and a small responsive website. If you go over here, back to our solution, you'll see that we have basic logo design, simple responsive site, and small database migration. Great. All right. So look at that. This is exactly what we wanted. And this is very, very quickly done. It barely took more than a couple of hours to set up from scratch. Maybe you can do it even faster. All right, now we are ready to use document outputs in prompt once they're generally available. All right, see you next time.